Good morning, everybody. My name is Deborah Byrne, and I am from DBpsychology Services, known across social media as DBpsychology. So this morning I'm going to talk about retirement planning, and I'm not going to talk about it in terms of the finances, because I'm not an expert in that area. So what I want to talk about is more the emotional side, the mental side, your mental health, but also, there will be elements brought in too that will benefit your physical health. So when we think about retirement planning, we only ever really, for most of us, we think about the pension. And we don't want to even think about the pension. The pension is something we don't want to think about. Particularly the younger you are, you don't want to think about putting aside money for your financial future. And, people, it's almost like planning a funeral. We don't want to do that. It's a blank wall. We hit a wall. We don't want to think about it. I don't want to know about it. But we have to, because there is a lot involved. And most people don't realize that it isn't just about taking care of, your financial side of your life and what you're going to live on after you retire. It's going to be also an emotional, and possibly an emotional roller coaster after you retire. So that's what this week's blog is about. Now, we know from a lot of studies, and there are a hell of a lot of studies out there, that there are emotional as well as physical and mental health consequences to retirement. There are massive increases in deterioration in terms of physical health and mental health, because, and it is felt, the studies are showing that people aren't pre-planning. They're not thinking about, what they're going to do and what they want in their lives. And they're not making that it's a mental adjustment. And that is the key point here. You really need to make a mental adjustment when you retire, or when you decide to retire, as much as you do need to make a financial adjustment, plan out for the future. And the key to a successful retirement is always not the finances. Yes, people can run into problems with their finances, and I will talk about that. But it is about making that mental adjustment. And we know that there is huge social isolation problems. When people retire, they lose their routines, and that can cause massive problems for people. And that alone will deteriorate your mental health very quickly, and also your physical health. It'll all have an impact. We know there is a connection between the mind and the body, as they say. So whatever goes on up here will go on in the physical body, but whatever goes on the physical body will go on up here. So keeping active is one of the things I'm going to talk about now. We also know that when people don't plan, that there is, in fact, in the later age group, we are seeing increases in addictions. So that's everything from drug addiction to, and usually it's around, with older people, it tends to be around prescription pills. And then it is also, alcohol and gambling addiction. So because people, as I said, people don't know what to do with their time. They don't know what they want. And they hit a wall, and then they decide to isolate themselves, and they sit at home, and things get caught up. They get depression, and things get caught up in their head, and they isolate themselves more, and then it's a vicious cycle. So it is all about planning. We also know from studies that, and I don't want to go too much onto the studies, but just bear with me for a minute. The studies are showing that there are 5 emotional stages to retirement. So, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. The first stage is an imagination stage, and that takes place about 6 to 15 years before you retire, and you start to really put some thought into, I want to retire. It's the fantasy time. What am I going to do when I retire? You might be thinking, I hate this job. Some people make an adjustment at that, but you can make an adjustment to what you've been doing. Maybe they cut back on work, or, change jobs altogether. Sometimes, people might call that a midlife crisis. Around that time, around your 40s, people will do that. And that's okay. Change job, change career, go back to college, do anything you want like that. If you can do that, go do it. And that's okay. But at that stage, you can, the emotional, the imaginative stage is in effect, and people are thinking, well, they're getting ready to retire. They're thinking about it. They're fantasizing about it. And that is the best place to do the planning. That is the best time to do the planning. Now, in saying that, it's never too late. Nothing is ever too late. So what can you do to help yourself if you want to do, that good planning stage? Review your priorities. I always say to people, at any stage, you can, at any time of the year, we don't have to wait until January to review our priorities and set new goals. You review your priorities. Where are you at right now? And I go through a whole load of questions. I have loads and loads of questions in this week's blog you can ask yourself. So review your priorities. Where are you? What are your self-care like? Are you looking after yourself? What are your current commitments? Are you taking on other people's commitments? Are you setting boundaries? So this is a good thing to start with. This is the basis upon which I would start if I was doing this. And then I would move on to, will I want to continue to work after I officially retire from the full-time job I currently have? Do you want to volunteer? Do you want to work part-time? Do you want to start your own business? A lot of people are starting their own business once they hit over 50. Even over 60, they're starting their own business. That's okay. Go and do it. And I would, as a psychologist, I would actually recommend, because I know it affects your mental health so much, go and volunteer even 1 or 2 days a week. Go and, maybe work part-time. Go and maybe start that business for yourself, because it will help you longer term stave off physical and mental health issues that can arise in old, as you get older. It's the social interaction we need. It is that connection, and that is what you're striving for, is to keep that connection open. So, there is recommendations that people do it, not for the money, not for money at all. It is more for the social interaction to be with other people, to keep the mind active and mentally alert, and get out and keep a routine. That's a good idea, is to actually keep a routine. So I'll come back more to that in a moment. The next question you could ask yourself is, well, where will I want to live? Are you going to downsize? Are you going to be able to downsize? Are you, do you want to even move to a new area? Sometimes people, and I know there's a lot of talk at the moment in the media about, moving people out of their homes and giving the bigger homes to, younger families. But what about the impact on older people? They have lived maybe in this house and this area. You've lived there for all your life. Your friends are there. And you've built up a social community. Do you really want to give that up? Or is it possible to buy something smaller in the same area? These are things you have to ask yourself, because they will have an impact on your mental health. Will you have dependent children? Adult children, maybe you'll have taken on your grandchildren. So you have to take into consideration that. Do you have any dependents? Now, your health and mental needs would be the next issue to think about. Making time. If I've said this before, if you don't make time for your relationship, your main relationship with your partner, if you have one, during the time prior to retirement and prior to the kids leaving home, it's not going to be there when you get to that stage. You need to make time for that relationship now, so that it is there later on. It is there for when the kids are grown up and gone and doing their own thing. Reducing your stress. Studies show that we have, when we retire, yes, we have, that workplace stress is gone, but it is replaced by other stresses. So constantly striving to reduce your stress, no matter what your age, is very good. It's excellent. I do have blogs up there on that, so check them out. I have a link out to those blogs from this week's blog. And as I said, you review your priorities, get your basic self-care in place, and have have good healthy boundaries. But also, think about hobbies that you like to do. Get out and join social clubs. As I said, social isolation is a major problem, and it is impacting people in retirement. It is impacting their physical and mental health. So, join social clubs, volunteer, get out and do activities, whatever you're into, bowling, I know there's Scrabble, go to the theatre, get out, get meeting people, and, that is hugely important. Get out in nature. I always tell people to get outside, get out a walk, get out in nature, keep active. Joining a club can also be, it'll help your mental health, but also could be a fitness thing. So as I said, bowling, it could be yoga, it could be anything you want, golfing club, whatever, think about what you want to do. There are, we have to talk about the finances, and I'm not a financial expert, but the only reason I'm going to hit on this is because financial issues can become a problem in retirement. And all I want to say, and I do say it and I stress it in the blog, is that if you are, if you're in financial difficulties, I always come back to it. If you're living in Ireland, you can go to an organisation called MABS. So do try, there'll be they're a money advisory bureau, and they help you deal with your creditors. But they'll also help you set a budget, and they maybe help you look at they may be able to give you advice on pensions and things like that. So have a talk to them. There's no point, pick up the phone and talk to them. There's no harm in doing that and just reaching out and asking for help. Now, I want to say that, there are statistics out there, particularly for men. I want to highlight this, particularly for the men. We know that there are huge, massive depression and suicide rates in the under 45s, but there are massive mental health issues with regards to men in retirement. So please, 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 if you're a man, or if you are a partner, or, if you're a friend of a man who is retired and you feel that he's struggling, mental health issues, can rise very sharply for men in retirement. So if that's the case, I would ask you to get them to get help. Please reach out and get help. There's no shame in that. If you need help at all, even if you're a woman, if you need help, please reach out. But particularly, we have to be aware that in retirement, that men can have a sharp rise in mental health issues. Again, it's that age group under 45s, and then the over 65s can have a sharp increase in mental health issues. So please, please, please be aware of that. If your dad, if he's retired and he's struggling, please think of that. Think maybe, how can I help? Well, talking to his GP would be a good place to start. And maybe, talking to a therapist for a few weeks would also help him. So you do the best. Now, the other stages are, just to very quickly mention them, there would be the anticipation stage. These are the emotional stages I was talking about before. The anticipation stage, it's about 5 years before you retire. There's the liberation stage, which is also known as the honeymoon stage, that lasts for about a year. And then the reorientation, that can take up to about 15 years. These are general guidelines, guys. And then there's the reconciliation stage, where we've accepted we're retired and we have our new routine and things have settled down for us. And that can happen anywhere after year 16, but it depends. I mean, nothing's fixed in stone. It does move along. I'm just mentioning them. I'm not going to go into them in too much detail. Again, they're in the blog, along with all the questions, loads of questions there for you to ask yourself, to do a little bit of prepping. I mean, to take an hour to read the blog and then sit down with a journal and maybe think about where you're at, and maybe deciding that you want to do some preparation for your retirement. Or even if you are retired, maybe it's time to take the weekend out, relax, not have any commitments, and then just think about where you are in life and what you would like to do. It's a golden opportunity to maybe do something for the first time just for you as an individual. So check out the blog. It's www.deborahbyrnepsychologyservices.com, and I will see you all again next Saturday. There'll be a new blog out on Monday, and I'll talk to you then. Bye.